All right, JB, we are live. Thanks so much for taking out some time, man.
No problem, man.
Cool. Well, listen, Mermaids Lament has been on my radar now since you started talking about it years ago. And like I said, after finally seeing it, it's literally all I've been thinking about, which is so cool. So
Thank you.
let's jump right in. I just wanna I got a couple of cool questions. Hopefully they're fun, and then we can go from there, all right?
Okay.
All right, man, sweet. So let's start with the underwater scenes, right? How did you beautifully capture those? Like, what did
Well,
you use?
we had some great people help out. Ron Murray and Warren Fintz both helped with some of the underwater cinematography, but actually about a third of the shots are just me with my GoPro. I was always in the water for every single shot. And so the GoPro just allows you to get a lot closer. I put a special lens on it to make it a little bit more cinematic. The problem with GoPro is that you don't have much color latitude, but a lot of the scenes we pulled the color from, so it worked out. And the imagery just came out beautifully, and Ron's ability underwater was amazing. And I mean, basically got everything we wanted.
Yeah, man, oh, that's awesome, dude. Now there was some beautiful scenes shot there. So I was wondering because I know you always post you know, your amazing videos, and I'm like, this guy underwater is like perfect. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
the thing is, even though that Ron was on scuba some of the times, all the stuff I directed just holding my breath. He would be down on the bottom, and I'd swim down the bottom, and I'd hang out with him and frame up the shot, and I'm like, "This is what I want," and like that, and then I'd swim back up, and he'd get the shot, and we'd go back down, and yeah, and some of the shots we were shooting from 30, 35 feet, so I'd have to bounce all the way down up, and um, it was an experience, but I love being in the water. I would love to do more stuff like this.
That's awesome, man. Well, it was great. So, all right. So this movie deals with some pretty important issues. There's depression, anxiety. I mean, let's talk about some of the battles in this film because it's some real stuff. It's really, it covers a lot.
Yeah, I guess it's going to get pretty heavy. I mean, my background is I had a lot of trauma as a child, and I actually got buried alive when I was about 7 years old, and it set me up to a lot of suicidal ideation. And I attempted suicide 3 times as a teen, ended up in the hospital. So suicidal ideation has been a part of a lot of my young life. And depression and anxiety. I had a lot of therapies, and it's helped a lot. But the ocean, to be honest, is the place that I feel most comfortable, most sane, most in tune. I mean, even if it's raging winter water with big waves, I feel so much more calm out there than anywhere else. And so that's kind of the bedrock at it. But we also mind, because the cast were new to film, they're from theatrical background. I wanted to draw upon their own experiences, their own histories. And so when I was scripting it, I sat down and we workshopped a lot of the scenes from their own backgrounds.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm not going to delve into that, because that's their own personal stuff.
Sure, sure,
But
sure. Yeah, of course.
we did talk to them about what they battled with and incorporated that into the film. As well as a couple of the crew members that have been along for the whole process. I'm very much about bringing the crew in to the whole creative process. I mean, you saw Strange Frame.
Of
I gave a
course.
lot of the crew agency during that movie. Like, here's a chunk of the movie, go with it, run with it, make something of it. And I had a similar approach in this movie. It's just like, okay, what are your stories? How can we bring your stories to life? And then weave them in to this narrative.
Wow, man, that's so good. So, I gotta ask, how did you find Dayva Escobar? I mean, who
Dayva,
Chloe? Dayva. I'm sorry, Dayva.
Dayva.
How did you find her? Because she's fantastic and barely
Thank you.
speaks a few words.
Um, What's funny is that she went to high school with my middle child, and
Brilliant.
the first time I saw her is when she played the lead in Little Mermaid on stage. She did a great job. Her singing voice was amazing. She had such presence, and that's when I first connected with her. And then, so when I was casting this, it was like, well, I guess this is a slam dunk.
Oh
So,
my gosh, that is perfect, man.
yeah,
She was great. And also Justina Mattos, right? Am I saying that correct?
Justina, Justina,
Justina.
Justina,
Justina. Beautiful name.
Justina, soft J.
She was
Yes.
amazing as the doctor, man. Wow.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I cast her is Dayva at the time was finishing up college, and Justina was her professor, and so they'd already worked intimately together for a long time, and so I knew that there was a high potential for good chemistry because they trusted each other.
Sure.
Because there's some intense scenes, and there has to be really deep trust in between the actresses to pull off the kind of stuff that we did there.
Sure. No, man, absolutely. Yeah, let's talk about some of those beautiful shooting locations, man. Tell me where this was shot. Especially that scene where she has the purple dress on and she has the umbrella with the long tail of trash and stuff.
Yeah, I just want to. The caveat is that even though I live in Hawaii, I wanted this to be like an anywhere coastal place. I didn't want it to be resonating like Hawaii because people have a certain preconception of what Hawaii is and what a film based in Hawaii would contain. And so I tried to do a David Lynch where it's like any coastal town
Sure.
kind of thing. And but that scene in particular was shot in Greensands area, which is the southernmost part of the southernmost state in the United States. It's very remote. It's hours and hours of drive on paved roads, and then it is about a 40-minute drive on a really bumpy four-wheel drive road. It's an amazing place, and it looks like no other place on the planet. Actually, some of the film was shot right here on my property. You can see it's very lush right out here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the river scenes were just below on my property, and some of the forest scenes were shot on my property. The night scene when the men are chasing him, and there's this big fireball behind her, that was shot on my driveway because I didn't want to. There's no public space where you can pull that off without like a very expensive permitting, and so
I can only imagine.
yeah, we did that here on the property.
And there's this cool shot when she has the purple dress on and she's kind of spinning around. Did you use like a droid to kind of capture like the round corner that you got? It was like a spin.
They're the one that she's standing on the cliffs.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
that's down at Greensands. That's down at Greensands, and we used a drone. Yeah,
a drone. Cool. Yeah.
Drone shots. Yeah.
Sweet, man. Yep. That was cool. Definitely a great shot. So hopefully everyone will catch that when they see it. So the film also talks a lot about like conservation and like pollution, kind of, like waste. She says a lot. Tell us about that angle and how much you wanted to include of that in the film.
Yeah, I have a problem of throwing in everything in the kitchen sink, and there was actually a lot more environmentalism stuff in the first cut. We had tons of scenes with her being confronted by the amount of trash we generate. There was a scene we cut where she was walking around downtown and she was picking up trash and she didn't even know where to put it because there was just so much of it.
So much.
And,
oh gosh.
So we try to dial that back a little bit because really it's the story between these two women. But when you're dealing with the ocean and how we as humans just abuse the ocean. I mean, you grew up where I grew up, and there used to be barges that used to go out in New York City and just dump all New York City's trash out in the ocean, and it would come wash back up, and so I had to include an element of that because it's something that Oe, as both a mermaid and a human, would have to confront, and we should all be confronting our waste. I'm wearing my shirt, Sea Shepherd shirt right now,
dude. That's very important, man. So, so one more question here. So, How did directing this film, Mermaid's Lament, kind of differ for you than like Strange Frame, which was wow, so much different? You know what I mean?
Um, well, one of the big things is that Strange Frame was such an an epic long journey in
Sure.
itself. I mean, I first sat down with Shelley Doty in 1999, and we didn't go into production until 2006, 2007. There was a lot of pre-production time, a lot of script development time, and then even though we went into production around the late 2006, we didn't complete it until 2011, 2012. So that was super long journey. I almost died because I was so exhausted. I was working 80, 90-hour weeks for a few years there, and seriously, I ended up in the hospital. But given the other big thing is that was also the first feature that I'd written. And Mermaid's Lament, I since Strange Frame, I decided that I was going to really sit down and learn the craft of screenwriting. And so I wrote screenplay after screenplay. Some have won awards, but usually I spend a year to 2 years still writing the screenplay and developing it. And I had written this one called The Big Pig, a horror comedy. It had raised some money. We were getting ready to shoot it in Colombia, and then COVID hit, and my financing vanished, and that was a 2-year journey raising that financing. And I just was so frustrated with just the whole industry. And I was lucky to be in this workshop with Sean Baker of Tangerine fame, and he said straight to me, he's like, "You have the skill set, you have the equipment, go out and shoot with what you have. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the financing. Go out and shoot something." And that was in March of 2021. And so, like, the next day, I started brainstorming, what do I have? What do I have access to? And the title, Mermaid's Lament, popped in my head before I even had a concept of what that was.
Wow.
And we were in pre-production by May.
Oh,
And we were
thanks.
shooting the end of May, beginning of June. So a very, very different process as far as that goes. It was very intense too. Even though we were shooting 2 or 3 day weeks, we ended up shooting for 3 months. We became quite a family during that time. We're very bonded. In fact, our DP and Dayva are now dating.
Oh,
That's
shoot.
how we got.
I love it.
So it was different in a lot of ways, but post production seems like it's the same no matter what film you do. Editing, it's the same kind of journey, discovering the film within the film, working with sound people, all that is very, very similar.
That's cool, man. I love it. Well, so now Mermaid's Lament is going to screen at the TCL Chinese Theater, right, on June 25th,
Yeah.
as part of the Dances with Films film festival in Hollywood, right? So
Yeah.
that's super exciting, man. Let's talk about the screening and what can we expect, and like the future for the film. If you could give us any insight, what we can expect.
Well, it is our world premiere, so that's kind of exciting. It's in Hollywood. This is the first time that we've had a theatrical screening in Hollywood for any of my films. I mean, that previous film we screened at Comic-Cons in California. We didn't screen in theaters. And so that's exciting for me. There's going to be, if you show up, there's going to be they call it a green carpet instead of a red carpet. We'll be there a half hour before the screening. If you want to take pics with us, we're happy to have you. I don't know, there's going to be a Q&A for 15 minutes after the film, and I'll hang around with some of the cast and crew, which, a few of us are flying in. So we're going to be a little team, a little family there. As far as the future for the film, can't really say what the future holds. Worst case scenario, we end up working with one of the streaming services, but we are going to be starting to talk to distributors as soon as we have more information back from more of the film festivals, see when we're screening and where we're screening, because you really can't know what a distributor might do with you.
Sure, yeah, of course.
But we have relationships with the streaming services, so we'll probably be up on either Netflix or Amazon or one of the other ones.
Oh, baby, I can't wait. So, you kind of brought up my last question here already. I was going to ask if you had any status for the Big Pig, because I was following that when you were working on it originally back in the day. And I wanted to know if you ever had any, plan to continue it.
Oh, I'd love to continue it. It's such a fun film. The screenplay's won 2 awards, and like I said, we were able to raise a good chunk of the financing, at least enough to go shoot it overseas. We couldn't shoot it here in Hawaii with the budget that we were given. But I'm not ready to dive into that long slog of trying to find financing again. I mean, we went to American Film Market, shopped it around, we were able to raise finance. That was 2018. And then we were ready to shoot the end of 2020,
Sure.
and in 2019, and started getting that ball rolling. So it was like a whole year of trying to get the financing together, and then it's all gone.
Sure. Right. All that
So
hard work.
so I'm it depends on how this film does. Like, what I have a bunch of projects in development. I have a bunch of screenplays, and it really depends on what's easy money to raise. I have
Sure. Yeah.
films budgeted anywhere from 100,000 to 30 million.
Sure.
So it's just who's willing to back us, back the team.
That's
Yeah,
wild, man. I love it. Well, listen, brother, I appreciate you taking out some time, and I am going to push Mermaids Lament as much as I possibly can. Media Mics
really
will
appreciate
have
it.
a nice review up. Around the time of the screening, I'm going to keep it so there's no, well, obviously. So yeah, but and then we'll talk soon, man.
Okay, thank you so
I
much, Mike.
appreciate it. Thanks.